Good morning, students. Our topic for today is physiological properties of muscle. Let's start with lecture plan. Today we are going to study about structure of muscles and physiological properties of muscle, types of muscle contraction and mechanism, then fatigue. And here we have three types of muscle tissues. First one is striated skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles, it is attached to skeletal. And then we have a cardiac muscle, it's also striated. Then we have smooth muscles. This kind of muscles exist in our internal organ, especially in the intestine, digestive system. And then we have functions of skeletal muscles, and the first one is to posture. It means skeletal muscles help our body to keep in the correct position when someone is sitting or standing. And then we have mobility, and it's main function of muscular system to allow movement. When muscle contract, they contribute to growth and fine movement. Then we have stability, and muscle tendons stretch our joints and contribute to joint stability. Muscle tendons in the knee joint and the shoulders joints are crucial in stabilization. Temperature regulation, and maintaining normal body temperature is an important function of our body, and it's an important function of muscular system. Almost 85% of the heat generated in our body, it comes from contracting muscles. And here we have physiological properties of muscles. Usually we have 6 properties. Number 1 is excitability. It's a response of muscle tissue to irritation or stimulation. In its kind of result is contraction or contraction usually. And then you have conductivity, and its ability to conduct or transmit impulses along the muscle fibers from one side to the next side. And then you have contractility. It's changes of either length or tension of muscle during excitation or during contraction. We will talk about this one. We have different types of contraction. And then we have elasticity, and here we give 2 more words. It's called stretchable and flexible, and its ability to resume its initial shape after it contracted. And we have automaticity, and this one is especially for cardiac muscle and smooth muscle, and they have ability to generate impulses spontaneously without any external stimulation or without any stimulation from our nervous system. They can contract automatically. And the plasticity, its ability to retain its shape for some time after it is stretched. And here we have a conduction velocity in different muscle tissues, and here in the skeletal muscles it's 3.5 to 14 meters per second. It's very, very quick. And then you have striated cardiac muscles. Its conduction velocity, its impulses conduction velocity is 0.5 to 1 meter per second. And then smooth muscle is 0.5 millimeter to 5 to 10 centimeter per second. And then we have different types of muscle contraction. isometric contraction. Then we have isotonic, then we have auxotonic contractions. And you know, isometric contraction, it's a type of muscular contraction in which the length of muscle fibers remain the same, always remains the same, and the tension of muscle is changed, and usually is increased. And then you have isotonic contraction, and it's same as isometric. In these types of contraction, it's also again it's type of muscular contraction in which the tension remains the same, always same, but the length of muscle fiber is changed or altered, maybe altered. So iso means same metric, and the length is stay same. Here the tension is stay same. And auxotonic, it's a combination of these two contractions. In the auxotonic contractions, the length, also the tension is changed. And then you have depends on the number of contractions. We have simple muscle contractions. It's very simple muscle contractions. And then you have summation of contractions. And summation of contractions, we have two sub types of contractions. One is incomplete summation, then you have complete summation. And then we have tetans. And also we have incomplete tetans. Sometimes we could call it tis tetans. And we have complete tetans. And another name of this is smooth tetans. Here, the simple muscle contraction, it is occurred by the influence of one impulses, and the impulses threshold its impulses must reach to threshold level. Then, if muscle contract one time, we have obtained this kind of curve. It has three periods or three phases. So first one is here start from here. And that here the stimulation is given, then from here to here it's called latent period. Latent period, it is a time interval between the point of stimulus given and the point of contraction started. And during this period, the muscle does not show any mechanical activity, and then started contraction period. This period, first let me introduce contraction period. So contraction period, it is the interval between the contraction, point of contraction, and this one is called point of contraction, and point of maximum contraction. And you know, during this period, the muscle is contracting. Muscle is contracting, is shortening. Then we have relaxation period. So relaxation period, it is the interval between point of maximum contraction and point of maximum relaxation. Actually, this one point is here. Actually, point is here. And you know, during this period, the muscle is relaxing. And we have a duration of different periods in typical simple muscle curve. It's for latent period, it's 0.01 second, and for contraction period, it's 0.05 seconds. And then you have for relaxation period, it's 0.05. Sometimes we say it's 0.06 seconds. And usually contraction period is always shorter than the relaxation period. It's because the contraction is an active process and the relaxation is a passive process. Summation, and we said we have two types of summation. We have complete summation and incomplete summation. And this is diagram for complete summation, and this is diagram for incomplete summation. And if second stimulus is applied during the contraction period, or during the second half of latent period, the two contractions are summed up and one single curve is obtained, and this is called summation and complete summation. And this is incomplete because second stimulus is applied during the relaxation period, and again the two contractions is summed up, contractions are summed up, and we obtained kind of one single contractions. And again, you know, summation curve is different from simple muscle curve because the amplitude of summation curve is greater, you know, it's much more greater here. This is simple muscle contraction is much more greater than the simple muscle contraction, and this is due to the summation of two contractions to give one single contractions. And again, you know, the duration of summation is much more broader than simple muscle contractions. And again, we have tetans. Here, if we give two stimulus, and here we have multiple stimulus, several. And again, here it says tetans is sustained contraction of muscle due to repeated stimuli, and it's with high frequency, and repeated stimuli with high frequency. And when the multiple stimuli are applied at a higher frequency in such a way that the successive stimuli fall during contraction period or previous twitch, and the muscle remains in the state of tetans. And tetans will relaxes only after stoppage of stimuli or the muscle is fatigued. And again, we have two types of tetans. One is called incomplete tetans, and another name is teeth tetans. You can see this is like teeth, and then we have complete tetans, and it's called smooth, very smooth. And again, to get these two different types of tetans, it depends on the frequency of stimuli. If the frequency of stimuli is not sufficient or low, for example, here we said it's higher than 10 Hertz but lower than 20 Hertz, we will get incomplete tetans. And if the frequency of stimulus is sufficient and high enough, we will get complete tetans, and the frequency of stimulus will be higher than 20 Hertz per second. And again, we have optimum and pessimum frequency of stimulation for the tetans. And the definition of optimum, it's a frequency of stimulation at which tetans reaches its maximum amplitude. During optimum stimulation, each subsequent stimulus get into the supernormal period, and this leads to constant high concentration of calcium in the cytoplasm. Then you have a pessimum frequency of stimulation, and it is a frequency of stimulation at which there is no summation or contractions. And during pessimum during pessimum frequencies, we have each subsequent stimulus gets into the refractory period, and it's said all the sodium channels stay inactivated, and it's impossible to generate another or new action potentials. And here the diagram of optimum. This is smooth tetons, and we get optimum frequency, and we get optimum frequency of, and then we have amplitude is maximum, reach to the maximum. Then we again increase frequency, then we get pacimum. And you know, there, at this period we have no summation of contractions. And here we have structure of sarcomere. First of all, you know, sarcomere, it is a structural and a functional unit of skeletal muscles. And here we have A band, and we have I band. A band, sometimes we call it light band, because it's isotropic band, because it's isotropic to polarized light. And we have A band, sometimes we call it dark. Yeah, here it's from here to here, because it's anisotropic to polarized light. So polarized light cannot pass through this area. And you know, in the A band we have myosin filaments. In the A band we have replaced actin filaments. And here, you know, we have that disc or that line. Yeah, between two that line it's one sarcomere. From here to here one sarcomere, and then again the next sarcomere. And you know, here we have two different schemes. This is a normal kind of relaxation state, this is contraction state. And here again the structure of sarcomere, that lines, yeah, or that discs, between the that discs it's the one sarcomere, A band, yeah, and I band. During A band we have M line, and this is thick filament, it's myosin. This is thin filament, actin. And myosin filaments, here it's myosin filaments. We have a myosin head, and it's something we call it cross bridge, because it's attached with actin filaments. And this myosin filaments will full up and again full up, and it will fold the two actin filaments to in the same kind of interiors, and then sarcomere will shorten and the muscle is contracted. Get back to the myosin filaments, and I said some lateral process is called cross bridge. Yeah, this bridge have enlarged structure called myosin head at their tips. Yeah, at their tips, and then myosin head attached themselves to actin filaments, and these heads pull the actin filaments during contraction of muscles according to the sliding mechanism. So you have actin filaments. We have troponin and tropomyosin. This is troponin and this is tropomyosin filaments. And troponin, we have troponin C. It will be attached with calcium ions. Then it will change the structure of tropomyosin. Then the active site of the actin will be revealed. After that, the head of muscle, myosin head, will be attached with active site on the actin filament. Here we have a mechanism of muscle contractions overall. So first we must have irritations. This irritations comes from central nervous system, and again generation of action potentials. The action potential is generated and the impulse is coming, and upon it will be reached to the neuromuscular junctions, then again generated an action potential, and the action potential travels along the muscle fibers and the T-tubule. Then it causes sarcoplasmic reticulum to release large quantity of calcium ions. After that, calcium ions binds with troponin, and it will cause deformation of tropomyosin. Then after that, the head of myosin can attach to actin active site. Then sliding of actin filaments, and again after it results in myofibrils to shorten. And again the calcium pump is activated. This causes decrease of free calcium ions concentrations in the sarcoplasm. After that, the myosin head is detached from the actin active site. Then it will return to original position. To talk a little bit more about this, and actually an action potential travels along motor nerve to its ending on the muscle fibers, and at the end the nerve secretes a small amount of neurotransmitters. Usually it's acetylcholine. Then acetylcholine acts on the local area of muscle fibers membrane to open multiple acetylcholine gated channels. Then these acetylcholine gated channels open, allows large quantity of sodium ions diffuse into the interior of the muscle fibers membrane. This causes a local depolarization that in turn leads to opening of voltage gated sodium channels, then initiated an action potential at the membrane of the muscles. Then the action potential travels along the muscle fiber membrane in the same way that action potential travel along the nerve fiber. Then action potential depolarize the muscle membrane, and much of action potential electricities flows through the center of muscle fiber here, and it causes the sarcoplasmic reticulum to release large quantity of calcium ions, which is stored within the reticulum. The calcium ions initiate attractive forces between the actin and myosin filaments, causing them to slide alongside each other, and this is called contractile period. And after a fraction of second of time, the calcium ions are pumped back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum by calcium membrane pump, and remain stored in the reticulum until what? Until a new muscle action potentials comes along, and the removal of calcium ions from the myofibril causes the muscle contraction to cease, kind of causes relaxation of muscles. And again, this is the last one of our topic. We have fatigue. It's a decrease in muscular activity due to repeated stimuli. When stimuli are applied repeatedly, after some time the muscle does not show any responses to the stimulus, and it will recover after active rest. And causes of fatigue usually is the exhaustion of acetylcholine in the neuromuscular junctions, and the another reason is accumulation of metabolites like lactic acids and phosphoric acids, and again it's because of lack of nutrition like glycogen, and again it's lack of oxygen. Because of lack of oxygen, the muscle will be fatigued. and thank you very much, and this is the end of lecture.